My name is Chris O'Leary, and I'm a survivor of the Catholic sex abuse crisis in the late 70s and early 80s here at the Church of the Immacolata in Richmond Heights, Missouri, just up the hill from the Galleria Mall. I was sexually exploited, abused, and assaulted, ultimately raped by a priest named Father LeRoy Valentine. With the knowledge of then Father, now Cardinal, Timothy Dolan. My abuse and assault started, there in the sacristy, here in the church, and then the rectory kind of over my shoulder. I'm extremely triggered given that Cardinal Dolan's on a tour of Ireland and being feted by the Irish church, at least. I wanted to make people aware of exactly who and what he was, what he is. So Dolan came to Immacolata here, 1976. I remember, my first memory of a priest is his giving us a lesson, Mark 8:22 through 26. Jesus heals the blind man at Bethsaida. The next summer, 1977, a priest named Father LeRoy Valentine came here to the Church of the Immacolata. People immediately knew that there was something wrong with Father LeRoy Valentine. Mrs. Glarner told Sister Helen, who told Monsignor Flavin, who told Sister Helen to keep her mouth shut, and everybody to keep their mouth shut. I have to assume that included Father, now Cardinal Timothy Dolan. The really frustrating part is that, yes, my abuse started here in the church, in the back of the church, in the cry rooms, but a lot of my abuse, November 1977, I was abused there in the rectory during a Risk and Pizza party. It was, Father Dolan, now Cardinal Dolan, Monsignor Flavin were in the rectory at the same time. That is not a big building. I don't know how Father, now Cardinal Dolan, much less Monsignor Flavin, couldn't have known what was going on, given that Father LeRoy Valentine was doing it to us in the rectory, which is a relatively small building. There were 3 priests living there in the 70s. That abuse progressed to special training, which I've talked about, that happened here in the sacristy of the Church of the Immacolata. I don't know whether Dolan knew about that, but I do know that Dolan saw Valentine take me and at least one other person upstairs in the rectory there at the Church of the Immacolata. Valentine, kind of abused, sexually exploited, tested us, groomed us, at least in his room in the upstairs of the rectory of Immacolata, out in the open, in the view of then Father, now Cardinal Timothy Dolan. I don't know how much Dolan knew, but I know that he knew a lot, such that when Spotlight came, and you should understand that my story is basically a sequel to the movie Spotlight. My story answers the question of what happened next after Spotlight, after the release of the articles, after the events chronicled in the movie. So January 2002, the Spotlight articles released. March 2002, a New York Times article runs 2 paths, no easy solution on abusive priests. It named Father LeRoy Valentine an abuser. I called the Archdiocese of St. Louis. By then, Auxiliary Bishop Timothy Dolan called me back. "Hey, Chris, Tim Dolan, Bishop Dolan, been a long time. How you been?" I told Bishop Dolan a series of memories immediately without any investigation. Then Auxiliary Bishop, now Cardinal Dolan, told me my memories didn't mean anything. Gave me a clean bill of health, which, I was thrilled to get. I was creeped out by the stories of Valentine, but, my memories weren't explicit. Or I didn't remember the explicit part, or the explicit part was tied in with some of my favorite memories, so I wasn't able to really kind of process things. Dolan did refer me to a quote-unquote independent psychologist who also gave me a clean bill of health. Turned out she wasn't as independent as I thought. She was actually the assistance coordinator for the Archdiocese of St. Louis and told me that I was just misinterpreting Valentine's actions and intentions. It's really triggering for me to know that Father, now Cardinal Dolan, is being feted in Ireland, Northern Ireland, Armagh. Cardinal Timothy Dolan saw and turned a blind eye to my and our sexual abuse as children here at Immacolata. Instead of being punished for that, Dolan was promoted. rewarded for his ability to turn a blind eye to the sexual abuse of children. That's the kind of man who is being feted by the people, by the church in Armagh, Northern Ireland. That's the kind of person who could be the next Pope of the Catholic Church. If Cardinal Timothy Dolan was never held accountable for what happened here at Immacolata, what Father LeRoy Valentine did to me and to us, with the knowledge, at least to some degree, of then Father, now Cardinal Timothy Dolan, then how exactly can anyone say that anything has changed in the Catholic Church?